Yo, it's your homeboy Kiiro in the building. Welcome to episode 123 of One Piece Gist. In this episode, I'll be doing my prediction for One Piece chapter 781. Being a prediction video, not a review itself, I'm going to be a bit more laid back. I'm going to squeeze in a lot of extra content that I just can't be bothered to make separate videos for, because it's like three different things, but they're all kind of small. I don't want to make like 10-second videos and things like that. Quick shoutouts to Michael Jackson, and shoutouts to Speak123. If you don't know who Speak is, he is a dude in the community, very knowledgeable about anime and manga, but he doesn't actually do reviews or anything like that. But he is a very knowledgeable dude. If you ever see him on Facebook in one of these groups or whatever, you might want to give him start a conversation with him or whatever. But anyways, I was talking with him about Shanks, who has been confirmed for One Piece Pirate Warriors 3, and Shanks' power, because one of his abilities in the game was leaked, and this led to some discussions about this power in the community, and there was basically a misunderstanding. But in any case, I don't want to go too deep into that. Like I said, I'm just gonna touch lightly on those stuff. But in any case, Pirate Wars is a really good franchise. If you've never played it, I recommend you rent one of the first two. If you've played Hyrule Warriors on the Wii U, it's very similar, so you're good. That's kind of the same experience you're gonna get. Furthermore, if you play Dynasty Warriors, once again, you're gonna get a very similar experience, except the story mode is better than in Dynasty Warriors, at least in my opinion. What's the second thing I wanted to talk about? I wanted to talk about death in One Piece. I was going to do a video about it, but I thought, this really isn't a huge issue. It's a tiny issue, so I'm not going to waste an episode on it. But in any case, some people are, angry that Law and Bellamy are potentially dead. But, the thing is, these are the same people that are going to complain that not enough characters die in One Piece. So, I basically wanted to highlight that, but I realized it's not worth making a video just to highlight that one thing. What else? Oh, well, by the way, Law isn't dead, in case you're convinced. He's far too important to the story. But even if that was the case, that because important characters can die. The second thing is Luffy isn't beating Doflamingo solo, but I'm gonna do a separate video for that. So to go more in depth on that in my Doflamingo versus Luffy video, which I'll hopefully do fairly soon. But yeah, that's the main reason. His importance isn't all that important. It's not as important as Luffy needing help to beat Doflamingo, which is the main reason why he isn't dead. Because important characters can die. They can. It's not like he's a Straw Hat or anything. We can totally continue the story without Law. But right now, he isn't beating Doflamingo without Law's help. Obviously, there's other characters that can help, but most of them are either too far away or there's simply too much help, even if they were close enough. So I think Sabo would be too much help. The thing is, Luffy doesn't need much help. Luffy needs help to overcome the matchup, not help in actually dealing damage to Doflamingo. Luffy's capable of taking Doflamingo out, but he needs to overcome the matchup. And without overcoming the matchup, he's not going to hit Doflamingo, so that's the problem. And Law would help him overcome the matchup, as showcased when he landed the Red Hawk on Doflamingo. Now look, without Law's help, he can't even land a Red Hawk Gatling on Doflamingo. So you can see the difference is really clear. It's like night and day. The matchup is just not in Luffy's favor. Luffy has to be far superior to Doflamingo to beat him in a one-on-one, because the matchup is not in Luffy's favor. Look at it like this. A man versus another man who has a gun. The dude with the gun wins. But if the dude without the gun is Batman, he's far superior to the dude with the gun. So even though it's a bad matchup, in most cases Batman still wins. But if it's Batman versus Batman and Batman has a gun, then Batman with the gun should win. And that's it. That's basically the case we have right here. The matchup is not in Luffy's favor, so he should lose. But if he has help, he can overcome the matchup and take the W. And that's basically Doflamingo versus Luffy in a nutshell. There's disrespect on both sides. Some people disrespect Doflamingo way too much. They just disregard the matchup. which is not in Luffy's favor. They disregard that completely, and likewise, some people disrespect Luffy. Luffy can take out Doflamingo. He has enough destructive capability to take him out. It's just the matchup. He's simply not touching Doflamingo, and or at least touching him very often. And that's the whole point. Doflamingo's gonna touch Luffy way more times than Luffy's gonna touch him, so Doflamingo should win. It was even showcased in chapter 780. We saw Doflamingo casually block and casually dodge, some of Luffy's best attacks. Now those aren't necessarily Luffy's best attacks, but they're up there. Luffy definitely isn't playing around. He's gonna gear second, Red Hawk, he's gonna gear third. With the Gigon pistol, it doesn't really get much better, just higher destructive capability. If you can't touch Doflamingo gear second, that's that. You're not gonna touch him, period. Or at least Luffy shouldn't. Now there is King's Haki, which Luffy is yet to bust out, and I think that's gonna be really important and monumental in this fight. And here's my reasoning. This arc to me is an introductory arc. It's basically to introduce elements of the new world as well as showcase different things from different characters. So in the introductory aspect, we have all these gladiators from all across the new world, from Elbaf, from you name it. So once this arc is over, we're going to have conversations with, the Elbaf dude, and we're going to have some foreshadowing for Elbaf. We're going to have a conversation with the bounty hunter who saw the people escape from Impel Down. We're going to have more foreshadowing. We have the underground, who can get more foreshadowing for the people involved in the underground. That's basically what kind of arc this is. And as far as fights go, this is another showcasing aspect. Instead of introducing things, it's just showcasing different things from different characters. So apart from Robin's pretty much only there because she has a relationship with the revolutionaries. So I think there's going to be something involving both the revolutionaries and Robin when the arc is over. But yeah, Usopp is there to showcase that he's unlocked observation haki. Frankie's there to, because he has the destructive capability to help out the dwarves without getting lost, because if that was Zoro, he would get lost and they'd never destroy the factory. And he also has to showcase his durability, because people might be in doubt that, okay, pre-timeskip Frankie isn't taking this amount of damage, but now we know how much damage post-timeskip Frankie can take. That's basically his role over here. Next we have Zoro, showcasing that his armaments is on that level. And then we finally get to Luffy. We will see what level his King's Haki is on. It is no coincidence that Doflamingo also has King's Haki. It is no coincidence that Doflamingo is the Celestial Dragon and Luffy has the Will of D. This is all planned really well by Oda, really smart stuff, and that's basically my take on all these things in a nutshell. And yeah, that's pretty much Dressrosa. And that's my reasoning for why Luffy's gonna bust out his King's Haki, and why his King's Haki is gonna be the deciding factor, or it's gonna be the most important thing in the fight. Because once again, Oda did state in one of the SBSs that Zoro was an armament specialist. Lo and behold, Zoro's armaments was showcased in this arc. Now we know Luffy as, well, you might not know, but it was stated in the same page, in the same paragraph and all that Luffy was the King's Haki specialist. So since Zoro has showcased his armaments, I think Luffy will showcase his level of King's Haki to create that balance. You see, whenever Oda shows something strong with Zoro, he does a similar thing with Luffy, just to even out the odds. If Oda does something with Luffy, sometimes he evens out the things with Zoro. So for example, Luffy had a shit ton of feats in Thriller Bark, and Oda evened it out by giving Zoro that Zoro versus Kuma ending. That evened out the playing field, because Zoro and Luffy are always partners in crime. Zoro is Rayleigh, Luffy is Goldie Roger. It's not it's not really a leader and follower relationship. It's more of a partnership type of thing, and they're always going to be together on the same level of strength. Now granted, there will be matchups, so there's characters that Luffy can't beat, that or Luffy will have a hard time beating, that Zoro will find much easier to beat, and there's characters that Zoro cannot beat at all, that Luffy will be able to beat thanks to Devil Fruit, and that is sort of how things go. As showcased in Skypiea very nicely. And no, there's no way in hell Zoro's beating him. No way. It's just the matchup. And Luffy is the counter to Kid. Zoro can't beat Kid without swords. He just isn't doing it. And Kid can control his swords. But Luffy doesn't need swords to be strong. And once again, we have the matchup. But when it comes to swordsmen, or Pika, for example, uh, there we go. We have Zoro to handle the swordsmen and to handle the Pikas. And that's just the way Oda's going about it. And I think it's interesting to see what's going to happen with Sanji. So you might think, okay, Oda is showing us Zoro, he's showing us Luffy. Why isn't he showing us Sanji? And there's multiple reasons. One reason could be that if he didn't include Sanji with the rest of them that left the island, it would be too obvious that nothing's gonna happen to them. There'll be no sense of danger because they're like, okay, these dudes, they're all weak, and we know that they're not dying, so something positive is gonna happen. They're gonna make it out alive. But with Sanji there, you think, okay, they're really gonna throw hands because Sanji is there. And that's basically the main way you can look at it. Then we also have my Big Mom versus Sanji theory. You may or may not have seen it. Basically, I have three theories. One is that Big Mom isn't on the ship, in which case they're gonna throw hands, possibly with the help of Lost Crew, so they might reach Zoe before they finally come into contact with Big Mom's ship. The second thing is that Nami's Viva card that she got from Lola and Thriller Bark. This is a very common theory. That's gonna bail them out because maybe Big Mom just happens to be Lola's mother. The third and final theory, this is the one that I came up with, is that Sanji will cook for Big Mom and she will forgive the Straw Hats for, whatever. So I think they're all three very solid theories, very plausible, and yeah. If we look at the third theory where Sanji has to cook, that would be an explanation as to why he has to follow them. Aside from, of course, it being a dead giveaway that nothing's really gonna happen to them. And yeah, that was a lot of stuff that I've talked about. And back to the chapter. Um, Luffy hasn't bust out the King Taki yet, so we might. I don't think we're gonna get the next chapter. I think it's really gonna come closer towards the end of the fight rather than towards the beginning because the fight has just started. And there's another thing I want to talk about, which is the length of Dressrosa. So it may appear as if Dressrosa is coming to an end, which it definitely is, but how soon? Is it going to end with this volume or the next? That is the question, and I can't really answer it. It could go either way. And this is basically my take on it. If Oda is going to off-panel the stuff that happens with Sabo and the Underground, then Dressrosa will likely end by the end of this volume. And then the next volume would sort of be, rebuilding Dressrosa, foreshadowing some stuff, connecting the dots, linking to Zoe, linking to Wano Kuni, stuff like that. But the actual Doflamingo versus Luffy fight should end in this volume, assuming the Sabo stuff is kept off panel. But if the Sabo stuff is included, then it's much easier for Oda to drag things out a bit, and so we might have it ending in the following volume and not this volume because we're already midway through this volume, so we have about 5 more chapters before this volume is over. And generally speaking, One Piece arcs end either on the last chapter of a volume or the chapter right before a volume ends, and that's also how the best chapters of a volume are. That's usually how it is. So the most hype chapters are either going to be the last or the second to the last. Another thing is volume length, because not all volumes have the same length. So some of them are 10 chapters, some of them are 11 chapters. So this means it might be the third or fourth chapter. Those 2 chapters might be the finale of the Doflamingo fight. I'm talking about the third and fourth chapters from 780. Or it could be the fourth and fifth, assuming it's one of those 11 chapter volumes. So yeah, it's a bit hazy, but for the most part, I've sort of delivered my message. If Sabo's stuff is handled off panel, then most likely we're going to end Dressrosa this volume. So that means Dressrosa has 4 to 5 chapters left, and then we have just cleaning things up, wrapping things up, and building a bridge towards the next arc, which is Wano Kuni. Yeah, so once again back to the chapter, and I do apologize for digressing quite a bit, but like I said, this is mainly straight off the top, so I do digress quite a bit. This isn't on a sheet or scripted, and I think that's another reason why I say a lot, because I have to think of the next thing I'm gonna say. But in any case, um shit. Sorry, I blanked out for a minute. I actually forgot what I was talking about, which is, I mean, what this video was about, which is about the chapter 781. But in any case, like I've been saying, I don't think we're gonna get the King's Haki this chapter. So there's gonna be more fists thrown, more techniques shown, and whatnot. But I do not think Oda will dedicate the entire chapter to Doflamingo versus Luffy, unless we're gonna get some a bit more information on what's happening with Law, which seems like the case based on the cliffhanger. You see, Law is supposedly dead, and if you consider the amount of damage he took, that is a very reasonable conclusion or assumption. However, this is Law. He has a Hacks fruit and his One Piece durability. There's a lot of things that can really bail Law out, even though some of them may be, a bit bullshit or, just incredible bullshit depending on what happens. At this point, it does not seem like Law is dead, and I also don't believe he's dead for the reasons I stated earlier. I don't think Luffy can take on Doflamingo solo. The matchup just isn't in his favor. Luffy would have to be far superior to Doflamingo to beat him, which he isn't. He clearly isn't. At best, they're on the same level. At best, because I do think Doflamingo is superior to Luffy, but if we give Luffy the benefit of the doubt, he should be on the same level as Doflamingo. And if he's on the same level, he should not beat someone who has the matchup in their favor. You're not gonna beat level 100 Blastoise with a level 100 Charizard. That's not how it works. You need a superior Charizard, a higher level Charizard to beat a Blastoise. They can't be on the same level, otherwise Blastoise should win. So that's basically a very simple way of describing it, in case you forgot or you didn't really get my Batman analogy, which I think I said earlier about Batman and the gun and all that kind of stuff. But in any case, yeah, I think the fight is going to drag on a bit more, and we're going to get a bit more of an explanation as to what's going down with Law, and that's going to take up a bulk of the chapter. You see, if we consider the last chapter, Luffy basically did only 2 attacks, and we're going to have a similar pattern where Luffy will use attacks, but not too many. Oda doesn't want to use up all of Luffy's tricks at once. He wants to spread that out to sort of in turn spread the fight out whilst keeping things interesting, because you do get tired of seeing the same move over and over again. So this is good story writing and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think I've said pretty much everything that's going to happen, or everything that I think is going to happen, and I'll just summarize what I said. Luffy versus Doflamingo Part 2, that's what's going to happen next chapter. And in next chapter, we will not get King's Haki just yet. It's a bit too early for that. Also, the entire chapter will not be dedicated to the fight unless we're including the status with Law, because Law is, in my opinion, part of the fight, and he is important to the fight, so you could count that as still being part of the fight. Otherwise, it's going to be 50 to 60% of the chapter will be Doflamingo and Luffy, and the rest will be something else happening across Dressrosa. Maybe we'll get an update on the Sabo situation or something else, not quite sure. But anyways, that's my prediction for this chapter. Really long video, the longest prediction video I've ever done, and this is because I just had to explain a lot of stuff, and I had to include a lot of stuff that wasn't necessarily part of my prediction, but I just felt like talking about it. You know what I'm saying? I don't do as many videos as I used to, and I feel like whenever I do make a video, I might as well make it count. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing intentional. I don't go out of my way not to make videos. It's just real life shit. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I do appreciate you for sticking all the way to the end of this video. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And as always, thank you guys for watching.